everyone. Welcome to Boys Bible Study. You're here with the usual gang, and today is our special guest joining us is our good friend, Dom Moschitti.
Hello.
You may be familiar with Dom through his work on Paperback Paradise, very funny Twitter and Instagram. We are gathered here today because we just watched a fascinating movie under the Jehovah's Witness pantheon of media, The Prodigal Returns. And Scott just told us how he found this movie in the thrift store. You can also download this, if I'm not mistaken, for free from jw.org.
Yes.
Great.
The results in the family may vary. You don't know how much the family is going to take away from it.
Yes. So, Dom, you were raised Jehovah's Witness?
When I was 5, someone knocked on the door and it sounded good to my mom. And so I remember we were watching wrestling. I think like Macho Man was feuding with Doink the Clown, I think. And my mom was like, hey, come in here. You have to come in and listen to us. I have to tell you something. Yeah. And I got interrupted from watching Macho Man and Doink the Clown fight.
It's
and my
like
mom,
everyone remembers where they were when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Well, like
everyone
my mom
remembers when you became a Jehovah's Witness.
Well, like in the same moment.
Doink the Clown.
That's amazing.
Well, in the same moment, I was
taken headlock by Randy Savage.
I was taken away. I was taken away from wrestling and brought into a room where I was told that not only would we be going to a new church, but Santa Claus is not real. It's just my mom and dad.
And you were never having another birthday
and we're
again.
not celebrating birthdays or Christmas ever again.
That's crazy.
That's so
It was tough.
Do you think that helped like solidify your love of wrestling in any way? Or like it's there for you even though maybe you don't have a birthday or Santa anymore?
Possibly. I mean,
what if they told you wrestling isn't real too? In that same conversation.
Well, I think I kind of had been hearing that. Like that's something like I had older brothers, so they were always like, "It's fake. See how they're doing this." But I do remember specifically one time in the Doink the Clown Macho Man Randy Savage feud where Doink at the time was having a little Doink come out.
Yeah, Dink.
Right. And he was like ruining matches.
His prodigal son.
Yes, his prodigal son. Well, I think Macho Man had a tiny Macho Man come out at some point, and he did something, and I missed
Macho Man.
I missed that because we had to go do a Bible study or something.
Man.
That was when wrestling was following the Island of Dr. Moreau format.
So have you found that match online anywhere?
I haven't really looked for it. I mean, that's a lie. I have looked for it, but I'm not really sure what happens, and I don't know if I need to.
Yeah,
because I have the truth to keep me company.
So you are the youngest sibling, right?
Second to youngest.
Second to youngest. And how much older is your oldest?
I think my sister just turned 40, maybe, and she's the oldest. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know any of their actual ages because we
Oh
never celebrated their birthdays.
No birthdays.
You know, so like I kind of don't know. I know my brother, my little brother, and my immediate older brother, but other than that, it's kind of a guess.
You weren't as like conditioned to expect a birthday, Christmas every year. I mean, like your older siblings were probably.
Yeah,
I would be pissed off if I was like 14 and somebody was like, "Hey, no more birthday presents, no more Hanukkah presents, no more Purim presents."
I mean, I remember one Christmas. And I remember having one birthday. And then after that, there were no more birthdays. But we did have a thing that happened around Christmas for a few years, which my family called Present Day.
Oh, yeah.
Where you just got a present. It wasn't tied to anything.
Can we talk about just the dynamic of living in a Jehovah's Witness family specifically? You know, how that affected your family, potentially the families of other people you had in your congregation. Can you speak to anything about that?
Yeah, so just, you know, to the smallest degree, we were different because everyone in my neighborhood was, you know, Catholic or Christian. No one in the immediate area, like I didn't meet someone who was not Christian until I was in middle school. So the fact that we didn't celebrate holidays and like I remember when they were doing Christmas stuff in class, like we would have to sit outside of the classroom. So like that was always a thing that followed like everyone in our family for a bit. And we were just a weirdo family. We just, I don't know if you guys can tell, but it was just like, you know, it was something that was like attached to all of our identity. And then slowly as we got older, we all just like, we're like, I'm just not going to go to church anymore. So, my mom was, as I said, really dedicated to the faith, but outside of that, it was like any religion. When you stop going to church, it's like, okay. It wasn't quite like it was in this movie.
Yeah.
Didn't tear the family apart.
Because I was going to say, it must be a common phenomenon that as many kids in Jehovah's Witness congregations come of age, they, of course, start to make their own choices. They have their own idea about young adulthood on their own terms. So, we'll get to it when we discuss the movie more, but a big theme of this movie was that adolescent point of a family trying desperately to cling to their child as he's entering this next phase in his life.
Yeah, so none of us had been baptized in the faith.
Oh.
My mother had been baptized.
Stop this podcast. Okay, we're done here.
That's a big deal, though, right?
Yeah, so like twice a year, they have like a big, or at least they used to. I think it changed slightly. But twice a year, they would have like a big meeting. It would either be at the Veterans Memorial Park in Philadelphia, where the Philadelphia Eagles and Phillies would play. And we would go to that, and it would be super hot. Or it was at some like just giant church, but like that's where they would have the baptisms.
Wow! So just like a huge not celebration of.
Yeah, well, it was.
How many people were there?
A fair amount. It filled up like a third of the stadium, maybe, or maybe probably less, because like that stadium fit, I think, like nearly 70,000. It was a big stadium, but I remember they had like an above ground pool that they would put together to baptize people on the field. Yeah. So we were never baptized. So like our descent from the religion wasn't as dramatic because it wasn't as my mother had converted, so it wasn't as embedded in our lives.
Yeah. Right.
But I have a friend who was disfellowshipped, and it was I talked about it briefly earlier, but like it was pretty devastating to her. She didn't get to talk to her family afterward. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's the only religion like that.
The only one. The only one.
Is it really an American? It's an American religion, like distinctly.
Yeah, like
Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, there's just
Right.
like there's like one guy who was like, "This is what we ought to be doing."
Hell yeah!
And
he comes to your door, and all of a sudden, that honestly is one of all the things you said. I still am just blown away by the idea that like someone can knock on your door, and you're like, hell yeah, I'm in.
Did they come multiple times and knock on the door, or was it the first one? And then like Nation of Islam was just down the block, and they just like barely missed converting your family.
God,
well,
these
my
GWs
mom
are a little faster.
my mom probably was nice to begin with.
Yeah,
but that's why they make their rounds and they come back and they return to people. And they got her.
Well, you know what else returns is the prodigal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Boys, let's talk about this movie. I want to give everyone listening a little sense of what this movie is about. If you don't have time to watch the whole thing on jw.org, you really should. I think it's worthwhile. It's a very fascinating piece. But let's just give a brief plot summary. Maybe you want to start, Julian?
Yeah. So there's the family, the Baker family. Barker family. Mm-hmm. They are devout Jehovah's Witnesses. They got a small family business. So the father and the two sons working for him. And the mom is also a shareholder in that because he says you own 25% of this business. And then one day, is it Doug Barker?
Oh God, I have no idea.
David is the son.
Yeah, David's the
David
main
Barker.
Yes, our main character.
Instead of putting on his brown construction outfit,
Barker family construction.
his Barker
outfit.
family badge,
his unpaid family internship.
he gets out of his childhood bed He's 21 going on 30. He gets out of that twin-sized youth bed, puts on a suit and tie, and says he's going to the big city for a job interview at a Fortune 500 company that he has no experience working.
David, I'd sure like to talk with you before you go.
Yeah, why don't you join us for a while? We can talk about things like, the weather, and how you never told your older brother that you were looking for another job.
I'm sorry. I didn't know I needed your permission.
Have you forgot that you have a job? Barker Family Construction, the small company that you're 25% of, the one that finally has workbook for 6 months.
But he was recommended for the position by a friend.
By a friend who is another quote-unquote member of the Jehovah's Witness congregation. He's an important character. His name is Al Phillips, and he's a very interesting character because the movie opens with a flashback to their past, and you actually see a young Al Phillips, like 8 years old, not paying attention in Kingdom Hall. And this carries on. Al Phillips is portrayed as someone who's technically in the church, but doesn't really live their life according to it, and works at this corporate web marketing office in the big city, presumably New York City, and causes the downfall of our main character, David.
My dad wanted me to talk with him before I committed to anything.
What's there to talk about? You have 100 other people out there that want this job.
I know, I want this. Then stop letting them mess with your head. This guilt, it's not healthy, bro. You're just gonna doom yourself to a life of working on other people's gutters and roofs.
Yeah, nobody likes Al Phillips. It's very like broken windows policing. You see that kid fall asleep in church, he's on the path to darkness.
Well, that's just kind of tough watching the film is that I did that where David is reading from the Bible in front of a room full of people.
Yeah.
They had a room in the back of our Kingdom Hall where that went on, and there was like a small group of people who did that. And I had a lot of anxiety as a kid, so like reading out loud was very hard for me. So, like, it took me a good while to read those. But then I was also the kid who fell asleep. So, I fell asleep in church every time. It was so goddamn boring. Like, I kind of don't know many. Like, I know certain things about the Bible, like certain themes and stories. But, like, the story of the prodigal son is actually kind of foreign to me.
Yeah.
Probably because I fell
I
asleep.
was the same at synagogue. I literally never paid attention to anything. And it was all just like, just straight up in one ear, out the other, just looking around at what everybody else was doing.
Not me. I was a star student. Like there was like Bible verse memorizing like competitions basically for how many verses you could log. And I always had the top. Like I had a really good memory. I was very interested in the Bible.
You should get on that Jeff Foxworthy
one day.
show.
Oh my God. That is the final pivot.
You beating up on like an 8-year-old and 12-year-old.
Yo, listen, that is the final pivot. You will not even know. I won't be talking to any of you all once I make Bible game show money. But
for me, it was really hard to be in church because I have 5 brothers and we had a Sega Genesis. And so when we were all at church, it was like no one was at home playing Sega right now.
Yeah.
Or if you like got faked sick and got out of going to church, you got to be at home for 2 full hours of playing by the Sega Genesis by
It sounds
yourself.
amazing.
Yeah, so like an old man talking about the oldest stuff, so boring.
That's why they all talk about Sonic the Hedgehog at these like new hip churches.
I have a friend who's from Indiana as well who said he went to a church that they showed the Matrix. Like they would do very new stuff. So they would show the Matrix and then talk about how it was like the Bible.
We had to watch Star Wars and they were like, the Force is kind of like, God's power.
Yeah.
My parents actually gave me a book once specifically about like all the big action adventure movies and how those are all the same narrative as the Bible because everybody is secretly attracted to, or not secretly attracted to, the ultimate narrative.
Yeah.
I thought of a really, really specific contemporary Sonic the Hedgehog worship joke, Pumpkin Hill Song. I'll let everyone Google that. But let's actually talk about the story of the prodigal son because it's really important. Maybe Scott, would you mind talking about that story and sort of how the movie retells the tale of the prodigal
Green
son?
Hill songs.
Well, there's Green Hill songs too. There's also Pumpkin Hill.
Okay.
There's a very famous rap song in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle where he goes to Pumpkin Hill.
Is it Punk?
it's pumpkin.
Okay.
Like there's like a Halloween theme, and
that's what I figured.
And it's a Knuckles level, and the song starts with "They call me the flying freak Knuckles, and this is Pumpkin Hill. You ready?" So I just think that's important. But anyway, let's talk about the story of the prodigal son, because it's very foundational to understanding this piece. Scott, would you do that?
Yeah, the original story in the Bible is basically a son is tired of working for his dad and their family business, which it's pretty clear they're like rich and have like a lot of workers and stuff. He's like, I'm tired of doing this. I don't want to stick around my family all the time. I want to go do my own thing. So he gets up and leaves. And similarly to the movie, goes in and gets into trouble. But when I heard the story when I was a kid, I thought he got into like the kind of trouble he gets into in the movies, like pretty mild.
Absolutely.
I want to say.
The mildest.
Yeah.
The trouble he gets into in the movie is like getting a job and moving away from home and doing everything. In the Bible, I think it's implied that he's like basically living a partying lifestyle. He just takes all his father's money and just
doing drugs.
Does what any normal
wasted,
person would do.
Orgies.
Takes a camel to Sodom.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, we've all been
if
there.
you know what I mean.
But then he gets down and out at some point and he feels bad. So he returns home, tail between his legs. His family welcomes him back, and they're so happy to see him. They slay the fattest calf and throw a party for him. And then his older brother's really mad because he's like, what the hell? I've been doing like my best job this whole time for you guys.
Yeah.
He's jealous, basically.
The big rebellion of our character David in The Prodigal Returns is that he really wants a job so he can live his own life and be away from the watchful eye of his family. So he comes to his new oasis, which is this just very like stock photo looking ass, cubicle situation. It's very interesting.
Well, I just wanted to sidebar there. The entire film does, as you mentioned, look like stock B-roll footage.
Yeah, there are a lot of montages.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they could have just been picked from, like this was the movie that they made all that stock footage from.
Yes.
That everybody uses.
Yeah, like they funded this movie by selling portions of it to Shutterstock or something.
That was another theory that one of you said, and I actually think that was if they're not doing that, then they should, because that's like a very astute use of their time.
But they have to give it away for
resources.
free because they can't sell these movies.
Because it's not profit.
Yeah.
And they make them very available on their site. You can just download the MP4. There's like a button for it.
But like one thing also that is a common theme, and we might talk about some of our other favorite Jehovah's Witness movies in other episodes of this, but a common theme in this movie, which I really want to talk about, is that Jehovah's Witnesses really don't want to work. They don't like work. Fuck work.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it dawned on me in watching this as after the prodigal son's spoiler, he comes back.
Yeah,
but when he does come back, he's like he's helping his brother load something into the car, and he's got his suit and tie on, and he's like, "Oh well, I'm gonna go work out with so and so this afternoon." And what he was saying was, "I'm gonna go knock on doors and go out and service and do the service of the Lord." And I think that's maybe why these films have such a pushback against letting anyone go out, besides being independent and growing and then getting your own kind of view of things. The other half of that is the work you're supposed to be doing is the Lord's work and spreading his word.
Yeah. Because they don't, he never expresses the reasons why he's taking this job. He's just like, I'm just doing it for fun, just to see what happens. He never says, like, I want to move out or I want to go live my own thing until everybody's like nagging him to the point where he like finally snaps and he's like, I don't want to live here anymore.
It's so ironic that the talking card for today dealt with putting spiritual things first.
Stay out of my face, James.
Maybe not so much ironic, perhaps a bit more providential. I'm sure Jehovah knew you weren't fit to give that talk.
Stop it, both of you! David, what's gotten into you?
Do you see what I mean? This is exactly what I am talking about. I am done being cross-examined and scrutinized. I'm moving into my own place with people that I approve of, and I'm answering for myself.
Just let him go! He deserves whatever he gets!
is happening to my family?
He's never completely honest with that. And they're never honest with him because they're always just like, well, you're not going to have enough time to do all this stuff. And it's going to change you.
Yeah.
So just saying, look, you're here, you're living rent-free. You can go fucking knock on doors all around here. And that's it.
You're 21. You've got your own strength behind your fist. You can do your own knocking. Okay.
Yeah, you haven't quite learned how to be horny yet, but you're getting there.
Hopefully, you never have that.
What they don't realize is that with the knowledge he can learn from web marketing, he could just knock on people's little
e-doors.
E-doors.
He could be knocking on the most doors.
Exactly.
But I don't know. It's just there's just often a big choice that protagonists have to make in Jehovah's Witness films that we see often enough that it's really worth noting, where there's usually some moment that represents like a Jehovah's Witness's worst nightmare, where their boss is like, we need you working more hours or you're fired.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I have to meet with the family on Thursdays. Well, I don't know. Like, it's just this big point of contention.
And that's how the film kind of worms its way into like getting on my side, where it's like the film makes a really good point to talk about how horrible corporate life is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Work fucking sucks. Like, they do a great job of depicting the like cushy banality of this like impeccably designed like cubicle office. Like, it fucking blows.
Yeah. The prodigal son, he descends, he goes into the big city, he gets the job, he puts in 110%, he gets yelled at, he stays late.
Yeah.
Does a fair amount of partying, but he gets his work done, and what happens? He gets
laid
go
off.
And he's like, we're going to give you 2 weeks severance. And he's like, I'm ruined.
Yeah, he made his whole life the company, which I feel like might be some poor planning on his part. Because what could his job be there that they hired him without any experience in web marketing, based solely on one guy's recommendation, and the entire interview consisted of them asking him if he was going to work hard and be good at the job.
Yeah.
And all he said was, I promise. And they had like 12 other people waiting to be interviewed.
I'm sorry. Have you had a different interview, Julian? Have you been on interviews?
I had one.
Like you have to get on your knees and pray, and then you say, "I promise to be good."
Yeah.
I did have a job interview in college at like a local TV station. It was like the part of the university, their TV, their like local access station, and they asked me what my like favorite shows on the channel were that I had never watched before, and all I said was just like, I pretty much like them all. They're all pretty good. And just like the amount of sweat coming down my head as soon as they asked that question, I realized I could not get through this interview without completely lying about everything. So I'm glad it worked out for him.
Yeah.
But like in that interview, when he's saying like, I'll do whatever you need me to do, like that's pretty much what you say in interviews.
That was his first mistake, because then they do ask you to do everything.
Yeah. But I had a job interview once that I was perfectly qualified for at a hotel many years ago. And they said, how long do you see yourself being here for? And I just immediately spit out probably about a year. And I did not get the job.
Wow. Can you imagine you have to say forever?
Yeah, you do.
It's interesting. This film is like the descent of faith to work. And that's kind of what work wants. It's like they want to bring you into their cult.
Yes.
All that onboarding stuff and like talking about the family is so scary and weird.
Especially nowadays when there's like the line between your personal life and your work life is so blurred.
It's gone. There's no boundaries anymore.
Because now all the offices are open floor
and we have
they're in like a house. Instead of an office, Slack they can just talk to you all the time.
That was the thing that they were doing. We have a friend who worked at Sephora, the makeup store, for a while, and they actually passed legislation, or they found that it was unconstitutional or something. I can't remember. But basically what they were doing was like, not only were they scheduling you, but then they would put you on call for retail hours, and you couldn't do anything. You were on call.
I had a job like that.
So crazy, but they can't do that anymore, but I'm sure they'll still do it.
Now it's going to be like you cannot talk to your coworkers unless it's in the #random channel on Slack.
But they were doing that in the movie, though. They had another was it a brother from the church who was a good carpenter? The Barker family construction was basically keeping him on call.
Yeah.
True.
They were keeping him in this bubble, not letting him into the Barker family.
Yeah, he was complaining about the brother working overtime at the company while he was in the garage, saying that the dad was making him fix the nail gun at like 2 a.m.
The nail gun that has broken almost 100 times.
Yeah, and his dad does not want to get a new one because of sentimental value to a nail gun.
Yeah, which I mean, that's the other extreme end of working for a very small business. You're just at the whims of, hopefully the person in charge is like reasonable when they see you literally as family. But
at least like corporate, like big corporations do have some laws that they have to follow.
Yes.
Like he could very easily be like, it's 5 o'clock, do not contact me. Like he would never do it, but he could sue and get a settlement.
Well, it's that constant thing.
You can't sue your dad for making you fix the nail gun.
Not yet. Once I read a couple books on it, then maybe.
When you got your first job, was one of your older brothers extremely condescending to you about it every time you interacted?
When you worked at GameStop?
Well, my first job was Arby's.
Oh, roast beef, the guy's favorite food.
So we're having David's favorites. Roast beef.
Roast beef is a common motif in this movie.
I want to go ahead and retract that. I do not think Arby's roast beef is great. I'm pretty sure it's that pink slime stuff.
Hell yeah, we love it.
I'm pretty sure it is, even though there's like information online that says that it's not. But I was pretty sure that it was.
Yeah, can't believe everything you read online.
But
this is jw.org.
They were all about me getting a job.
Yeah,
they actually loved that.
Can you talk about, because this film creates a binary between like working for a soul sucking job and working for your family's job, which is like a good thing. But didn't you talk about, you had anecdotes about Jehovah's Witness small businesses? Like, who was that? Was that you, Dom?
Yeah, my brother worked for another brother in the faith, and he ran a plumbing business. And yeah, like my brother put in 110%. Like he is clearly the best person on their force. And, he was treated like shit. And eventually the company folded after like 10 years. The plumbing force.
Turn in your badge and wrench.
And your belt. They have a belt. But yeah, he was, I believe, an elder. So like he would go up and do full on like hour-long things, sermons about the Bible, and then he would exploit his employees who were faith adjacent. Okay, my brother wasn't in the faith, but my mother was.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there are plenty of. And what's weird is that he kind of did look like the father in this movie a little bit. He was reminding me of him.
Dude, that's the face of work abuse.
Well, the weird thing is that
his old white
face
guy.
of the petite bourgeois.
But yeah, just because you're of the faith doesn't mean you're going to treat people right. But we all know
you
that.
can easily just do. It's like these religious people; they just do one thing and say another.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if anybody else has figured that out.
Yeah. So as we see, David at the workplace, we get to meet just a bit of the other cast of characters. Obviously we have his boss, and we have Al, who we already discussed as his fellow witness coworker. But we also have
his only friend.
Yes, which actually I think was a pretty realistic depiction. I feel like sometimes that is how it is. He
wasn't
people.
at work long enough to really like get to know anybody else.
Yeah, or like just be in the city at all and like get any friends. So he basically just worked with people and then went home to them. But we should also mention there's 2 other young women at the office who they're very friendly with. There's Taylor Reynolds, who acts as a bit of a love interest as the film progresses. And they have another coworker named Vivian. And so we sort of get to see the initial desire for dating and sex to sort of subtly come across in the movie through David's interactions with these women, which ends up setting up for a pretty climactic, reckoning moment of the movie.
Something I've been unclear about watching all these Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm very clear on where they stand on joining the workforce, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love it.
I'm not clear on what you're supposed to do to find love in the faith.
Yeah, that was always kind of an interesting thing for me growing up, is that there was like no one kind of my age that like who was I would be attracted to in the church. So like that was kind of always something that was like perplexing to me. So I do not know. I think you just kind of like, there must be some like way that they introduce other congregations, just meeting other people. But I think a lot of people of the faith just hitch up with somebody of the faith. And
you think like arranged?
They probably arrange a bit. They probably do a fair amount of arranging, more so than most Christians.
Yeah, you definitely got to clear it with your parents, right?
I mean, if we know anything from the movie, you better clear it with your parents.
Everything has to go through the parents.
Yeah.
I just realized there's that scene where David watches his roommate, not Al Phillips, go into his bedroom with his girlfriend,
Anton.
And when his roommate Anton goes into his bedroom with his girlfriend, it's also my roommate's name.
This is strange.
Yeah, isn't that weird? And I do the same thing. Whenever I see him go into his bedroom with his girlfriend, I immediately go to my computer and start jacking off like David in the movie.
Yeah, once David gets in his new apartment with his work friends, one of the iconic scenes from the movie, we might have to use as like the episode art or something, but it's just him looking at a laptop screen that says exoticangels.com, which is so fucking iconic.
And he enters the website and it says, this content is over 18, and the only option is yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, actually, one of you set up, I just thought this is the ultimate Christian looking at porn conceit, is you go to the porn site and it says, this content is over 18. Like, are you? Yes or no? And you're faced with the difficult decision as a Christian. If you say yes, you have to look at porn. But if you say no, you're lying. So what do you do?
Yeah, that is wow. Could you lie to the internet? Is that?
I think you close your eyes and let the Lord take your hand. Jesus take the trackpad. I just like the idea that he has such impure thoughts that, like, as soon as he sees two people, a man and a woman, walk into a bedroom, he has to go rub one out.
Yeah.
Exoticangels.com.
But in the interviews later, they say he gets involved with prostitution, and they show that same clip. I'm like, wait, what?
That's true.
Yeah, so was that implied that maybe that's their definition, is that even jacking
for free
to internet porn is prostitution.
Yeah, maybe they see
I think so.
Any sex workers technically. Maybe they're using prostitute to mean sex worker, but I think that they're using it, specifically in a demeaning way to indicate that, someone's like selling their body, quote unquote. Yeah, I don't know. Or either that or he was truly using like an escort website and like meeting up with prostitutes, which is a little more far-fetched, I suppose.
And I don't think it's what he was doing.
And they never showed it.
Yeah, but then again, they can't. I mean, they can't even hint at showing that.
I mean, Jehovah had to see that and go, okay, I don't like this because what's happening right now, but I do
like... But if he could move a little bit to the right so he can get a better view.
No, but I thought that Jehovah would probably be like, but it is angels.
Yeah.
Okay, at least it's faith-related pornography or prostitution.
Oh, and this guy, I'm surprised he didn't go into the living room to watch porn, because the recurring thing is the fact that like his family computer at home is like in the living room against a wall so everyone can see what you're doing. And then at his work computer with his like open cubicle, he's just on Facebook looking at
InCrowd.com.
Oh, he's on InCrowd.com looking at pictures of his coworker who he's attracted to. So I don't know why he would feel shame about just looking at porn with everyone there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been out in the open his whole life.
Yeah, he seems like the only way he knows how to use a computer.
That computer chair in the family dining room gets a rockin' around 2:30 a.m. They have some unofficial scheduling happening there. Let's be real.
If Windows 98 could speak,
they're not playing Sonic, that's for sure.
In talking about that, I realized that must be something that new kids or kids today that grow up Jehovah's Witness deal with, is that they probably don't get a smartphone. Like that's probably something that
because it tells you when the holidays are. You don't even have to program.
Yeah, that's the thing. Wow. Like your phone just says "Merry Christmas."
And asks you what your birthday is when you're logging in. You're like,
I was supposed to forget, but I remember.
You're not going to give me a present, are you? I'll just write down when present day is.
I'm sorry. This shows a present when my birthday is on my calendar. I can't have this. But they, I'm sure that's something that they do at the Kingdom Hall nowadays. Is probably they're wary against having any kind of personal computer
Yeah.
that can't be out in the open. Because there's a lot of stuff on that internet.
How are you going to go to jw.org?
That's so true.
Super true.
Watching it on the bus on the way to Kingdom Hall.
Pretty sure there's a JW app.
Maybe.
Yeah,
That's the only app you're allowed to have on your phone. Otherwise, it's locked.
Not even the calendar.
I'm digging Jehovah's Witness. I hate work, and I like coming up with excuses to not have social plans.
Yes.
Like saying I'm going to meetings. And also, I don't know the birthday of anybody in my family. So
you like working from home, too.
I do like working from home.
And you love annoying people.
And I do love annoying people. And looking down on others.
JW might be the one for you, Julian.
All right. Julian. I already got the J.
JulianWorksLess.org.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
So as David becomes more familiar with his coworkers, and unfortunately, he has this really anticlimactic exit from his work. He gets laid off despite how hard he's working, which is just another demonstration about how the corporate world doesn't care about you and will fuck you over, unlike your family.
Or small business owners.
A bunch of
make you work in blizzard conditions. Just to say that we're open.
I have no choice but to cut staff. Unfortunately, I have to let you go.
What? I don't understand.
I know. These things are never easy.
But after he gets laid off, a series of horrible events spiral, and it really shows you just how awful the world can be. I mean, Al takes him out for drinks, just to sort of as a gesture of, hey, I'm sorry you lost your job. But the night goes south.
Yeah. For some reason, they go to drinks somewhere where they had to drive, even though they live like 10 minutes from their work.
Yeah, and they're ostensibly in New York City, which is one of the most public transportation rich cities.
So they drive to work, or they drive to get drinks after work to celebrate
that he got fired.
That he got fired, which he's already pissed off about.
They were actually celebrating Al's bonus, but he conned them.
Oh, yeah. Al got a bonus when everyone got laid off, which is like the most accurate corporate thing in that movie.
Yeah.
And they have a few drinks, and Al refuses to let Dave call a cab.
A taxi? You barely had anything to drink.
I had enough. I'm not driving.
Fine. I'll drive.
That's not a good idea, and you know it. Come on, give me my keys back.
Look, maybe you don't know how to handle your liquor, but I do. You're starting to sound like my mother. Just get in the car.
So he insists that he drives David's car home.
And they had just made it clear, like a scene before, that David could not afford car insurance the last month.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and David apparently can't say no to the friend who just like got him this shitty job and also got a bonus when he got fired. He still can't say no to him, so they get in the car, and then what happens next?
They go on what happens in every Christian movie, which is a drunk driving / accident spree. Al Phillips has David's keys, and he's drunk driving the car despite David's misgivings. And he runs a red light and starts getting pursued by the cops. But instead of pulling over and getting a DUI, Al goes on a hit and run joyride spree, ends up trying to hide in a construction site, which is just amazing.
Keep your hands in the air. Down on the ground. Now, get down on the ground. Face down. Do it. Check the car. Checking the car. Show me your hands. Check the car. Car's clear. Give me your left hand.
I love that every failing Christian is just like a crime spree waiting to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's what people tend to think when you're not religious, that if you are not religious, you are evil. And
because why wouldn't you just kill someone?
Spirit of Satan is going to possess you because you lack any sense of right and wrong.
Well, also the world is so bad all around you that you can only go, well, they must not be Christian.
Yeah. Even though I'm not a religious person. I don't
stop
think so.
This podcast right now.
Yeah,
I'm warming up to JW. All right.
Yeah.
And
you're blowing through the red light. of faith.
Yeah. And I feel like I have my own sense of what's right and wrong. And even if that doesn't really, if that's not in sync with religion, then it has to be in sync with law, because there are people with guns walking around everywhere who will, if you decide to go on a murder spree, they will shoot you to death.
Yes. Or even just the implication that if you don't think that you're going to hell, then like why wouldn't you just kill someone?
Yeah. And it's also like, you can just like not want to make other people sad.
Do you remember when Jeff Sessions pointed to that scripture? I forget what it was, maybe about like family separation, but Jeff Sessions was like pointed to that scripture that said like the law is God's law.
Yeah.
So do it.
Yeah. So even if you aren't, even if you don't follow the Christian laws, you kind of have to, because the people who make the people laws are looking to the Christian laws for guidance.
Yeah. And after this unfortunate accident, Al runs away. There's briefly a mixed identity moment where the police think that David, in fact, was the crime spree driver, but that's quickly resolved. That doesn't really end up becoming a plot point.
Yeah,
but,
he spends like 6 hours in the drunk tank.
Yeah,
and he gets out, and where does he go? He looks for some comfort. He goes to Taylor Reynolds' apartment.
Yes,
the crush, the work crush.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they have a really tame time.
Yeah, and she is trying, because he is one corny motherfucker.
I probably should go.
No, that's crazy. It's pouring outside. You'll just get soaked. David, please don't go home tonight.
Yeah. Oh, he's never gotten a boner in his whole life.
Well, that's what's really confusing about this scene, because it is implied through there's an additional feature on the DVD called interviews, and in the interview section, it is implied they let it know that there was a sex scene in this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that. I mean, I kind of thought that there was while watching, but like they really, take 2 steps away from implying that any kind of intercourse happened.
Yeah, they will leave it so ambiguous, because all they say in the interview is that he like committed the ultimate transgression or something.
Yeah.
And then Taylor,
but you never even see them kiss or touch or do anything.
They get closer and they're drinking wine together, and she said, "Hey, you should spend the night on my couch because it is pouring rain outside.
Which is
and
true.
I just dried your clothes for you."
And then she touches him on the shoulder, and then the next shot is just an external shot of the door, and the door zooms out.
Yes.
And that is how you know.
Sex maybe happened somewhere in that building.
Yeah.
And then immediately he's
all closed apartment doors of people fucking behind them.
Well,
and otherwise, why would you have the door closed?
Or podcasting.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Her address was 769.
Yeah.
So
really? Lucky 7. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
69.
Right.
Sex.
That's why 8's afraid of 7, because 7, 6, 9.
Yeah, and then, but like one of you pointed out, maybe you, Scott, that moment, the sex moment, that is really the breaking point where he breaks down.
Yeah,
Dark Night of the Soul, as it's known in the screenwriting world. He's down in the dumps after that. I mean, he wanders around New York City without his tie tied.
With the pouring
his
rain.
pants down around his ankles.
Pouring rain, just doing, they always talk about people doing the virgin walk, but even worse.
The walk of shame.
Even worse than the virgin walk is the walk of shame.
I feel like you can tell.
Yes,
you
can
could tell.
absolutely
If you
tell.
showed 2 people walking side by side and one was a virgin and one wasn't, you could tell which one.
Okay,
Yeah.
one of the 4
Which one's
people doing this
slinging
podcast right now is a virgin. You at home,
1 in
figure
4.
it out.
1 in 4 podcasters are virgins.
That's entirely true.
Chances are it's the person who came up with the podcast idea.
and the podcast they made is likely about becoming not a virgin anymore. Anyway.
Yeah. And they say when they're plugging in all the equipment, they always say, "We're going to get so laid for this."
But yeah, and I don't know. I think you made an astute point, Scott, which is just that it's just another sort of embedded misogyny thing. That's just really like that's the worst of it. Like him having sex with this girl is
Well, that they
Seeing some
established.
boobies
They established
means you're going to hell.
early on in the film that she used to be of the Jewish faith. She used to
True.
be the
ultimate sin, in the eyes of Jehovah.
Yeah.
So I got a question.
Okay.
Your friend who was kicked out of the faith.
Yeah.
They had relations with like a bad boy, quote unquote.
They were teenagers.
But this guy, he fucks. He looks at porn. He drinks. He gets in a fucking drunk driving accident, and they just let him back in. That's because she was a woman, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was also real life, and this is a movie.
Yeah.
I guess I can't really hold the fictional people too accountable for their...
Well, you would imagine that what comes out of jw.org does reflect the entire faith.
Yeah.
So what you're pointing to probably is the result of, just men controlling the church on a local level, and then they just made a decision that you're out for good.
Yeah.
Can't have you. Bad seed. See ya. It's bad. It's devastating.
Because I was curious, like, what if there was like a line where like premarital sex is you're done.
Well, now what you're pointing to, I think, is a bigger point about the misogyny of the religion, because if it was a man and not necessarily a bad boy that this situation was, and a man had done something, he would probably be accepted back, like a prodigal son.
Yeah.
Jesus forgives, so does God, and Jehovah is God rather. But anyway, there's a lot of forgiveness in the religion. So if it was a boy, probably everything's okay. Cool. That's my guess.
Yeah.
So one really interesting filmmaking element that we're all so taken by when we watch The Prodigal Returns is that the special features on the DVD speak volumes to the filmmaking style just as much as the film itself.
There's no credits in this movie.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as soon as I saw this movie, I was like, I have to know who directed this, and I want to see what else they've made. And it's not online or anything. No opening credits, no closing credits.
All it says is don't sell this movie at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get to the interview section, the special feature. And it's really strange because it's like, okay, here's candid moments behind the set. Here's a real live set. But it's like a rehearsed behind the scenes moment where they're working and they're calling things out, and people
like
are
crew
doing
members are the film crew is wearing ties and button downs and khakis, as most film crews do.
Yeah.
Michael, we'd like to start with you. What are your observations?
Well, I gotta admit, it was kind of embarrassing playing Bad News Al. I had to say and do these despicable things. Nothing that I would do in real life, of course. And the thing that made Al especially bad is that he was not a non-witness who was trying to lead David astray, but he was a Christian who chose to turn his back on everything he knew. So I kind of had this fear that people would view me differently because I had to play that character. But then a brother reminded me of 1 Kings chapter 22, where it talks about how an angel of Jehovah had to play a deceptive spirit. And he used that to fool King Ahab, and it taught everybody a lesson. So Jehovah approves that.
I did like how performative the interviews were, too, to the extent that the patriarch from the movie is conducting the interviews as well. I would like to see that from more movies. Where one of whoever the closest to a patriarch or in charge figure is in the movie conducts the interviews with the cast.
Mm-hmm. Instead of like some separate moderator.
Yeah.
That guy has to be an elder.
It's like
the case.
Eddie Murphy as like the dad clump, and he's interviewing Eddie
all
Murphy as all the other clumps.
That is a special feature, right? That has to be. I love that movie because so much of that movie is going, wow, that's all the same guy.
Yeah. that and like he has another movie like that, I think. Norbit.
Oh yeah, Norbit was also like
classic.
That. Yeah.
Another biblical allusion.
Oh, true. Norbit?
Don't ask me to explain that.
Okay.
I'm just gonna
just believe.
All right, I believe you.
But also, what's great about the interviews is, it's unclear to me. I wager a theory that all those interview answers, when the the character of the father, breaking character as himself, was asking his fellow actors about their roles and how they felt. I almost felt like all of their responses were completely scripted.
Yes.
Even the ones, there were times when they were like kind of stuttering or like thinking of the next thing to say, but it seems so performed. I mean, if they weren't literally all scripted and read off a teleprompter, then at the very least, there was a bullet point list on the teleprompter of what they had to hit in their answer.
I think that might have been it. It felt very like Bible study or like youth group.
It was so meta. I've just never seen that. I've never seen a movie pull back and being like, the movie never really ends.
This is the movie that my mom would probably want me to watch.
Yeah.
To get me back.
Yeah.
Back at church. She always says, hey, you should go. You should go this weekend. And I say, okay, Mom, I got better stuff to do.
Oh, sure. I got to make a podcast. My God.
This is what we did today. I did go to church. I went to boys' Bible study.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome.
Well, I really want to thank you, Dom, for joining us. Once again, our special guest today in Boys Bible Study was Dom Moschitti. And anything you want to plug?
Yeah, plug it.
I called it Paperback Paradise because that he says it in the film, but that's where we're going, guys.
Yes.
Paradise.
That's so true. I like that you always have paradise on your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the
Their
reasons
eyes were watching.
That's where I'm going, baby.
Jehovah.
It's going to be beautiful. I did really love that. Like there would be illustrated versions of like children's illustrated versions of the Bible stories.
Yeah.
And there was like an illustration of like paradise, and it was just like a really nice day, and like people were hanging out next to a lion, and it was chill. And I was like, that sounds awesome.
That sounds fucking rad.
Like I thought, like I was really stoked for that. I was like, paradise is going to be dope. And when I was growing up, like I had friends who weren't in the faith, and I felt a sadness because I was like, man, they're not going to be hanging out with lions.
Yeah.
The lions later. Like they're just going to hell.
There's no lions there.
No, actually, I do want to say that Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in a hell. They don't believe that you do go to hell. There's just a paradise and a heaven.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's there is another movie that I think just you and I watched, Ash, called Hell and Mr. Fudge, where he which we watched
about that.
solely
Jesus
because
Christ.
of the title.
Wait, was it a JW movie?
No, it wasn't, but it was a Christian movie.
It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
It was really just Mr. Fudge doing research on hell to see if it was really real or not, because like a friend of his died or a family member died or something, and he was sure that if there was one, that's where they were going.
They wanted to see. He put a cup up to the earth to see if he could hear him scream.
Well, it was like action shots of like him like going through books and then like giving speeches. It was like, oh my God, it was miserable.
He drives by a guy digging a hole in his yard.
He's like, oh, no. Or he's like, hey, let me know what you find down there. I'm gonna come back later. Let me know what you got.
Hope those boots are flame retardant. What about a message a message to everybody?
A message of hope,
like a tip.
Go to jw.org. Watch more movies.
They have
That's
great
what I got
movies.
going on.
It's
watching
free.
movies at jw.org.
Wait, I almost forgot. We got to give this movie a rating.
Yeah.
How'd it feel?
I give it 5 watchtowers out of 5.
Absolutely.
I've decided I'm a Jehovah's Witness now.
Yes.
I'm going to give it a full blown awake.
Hell yeah. I say,
wide awake.
Yeah. I say pro family, anti work. Sign me the fuck up. 5 stars.
Yeah. I will give it the usual 13 out of 13 1 Corinthians.
I'll give it 12 out of 12 Tribes of Israel. All right. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study with our guest, Dom Moschitti, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me.